The very first one was 20 vendors. We had everybody show up. I got everybody settled. It was perfect. And I was like sitting down, eating at the food truck and listening to the music with all the vendors behind me that I've already looked at. And I was just like, this is the event that I've always wanted to have in Little Rock. Hi, I'm Katy Raines, and I'm a creative in Little Rock.
All right, so Katy, the last time we talked was in 2018.
Yes, yeah, 5 years officially.
Yes, and that was pre-pandemic, pre-everything.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So at the time, you were really pursuing some creative things. You were working more on your lettering skills.
Mm-hmm.
You were working on some murals. How has your life shifted since then?
Well, the pandemic did a lot. Was a big one. But even before the pandemic, like, I was very gung-ho into my side business and trying to grow that and see where I could put it.
And what was your side business?
My side business was Katy Raines Designs, and I was just doing logo designs for people and doing branding campaigns and just kind of doing vendor pop-up markets as they came up wherever I could, just, you know, selling my own illustrations and whatever. Kind of did that for a couple years, and it was tiring, but I was mid-20s, so I had all the energy in the world. And then pandemic came, so events were canceled. Nobody needed a logo, not as much. So luckily I still had my full-time job, which since 2018 I've been promoted. So I'm now creative director and research director at my current job.
What were you before?
I was just graphic designer. So kind of took on a bump in creative director and took on a whole new role of research, and that's it's in commercial real estate, so it's just researching the market and knowing what's going on. And I think that kind of helped probably develop a little bit of where I ended up steering now. Is so I got that bump probably right after, probably 2019. It's right after we talked last time. So I got that bump, and then the pandemic happened, and so that was all go back indoors, and that was very much I took that time to relearn who I was, which I think a lot of people did that, but that was very much I'm gonna buy the clothes that I want to buy. I've always wanted a skateboard, so I bought a skateboard. I bought roller skates. I learned a lot of new hobbies. So lettering kind of became a back burner for me because I was pursuing just all these other creative passions. I moved on from lettering back to what I truly love about art is figure drawing. It's always been my favorite, but it's not marketable. It's really hard to market, to say I'm only going to draw people. And there's such a, like during the pandemic when I was doing this 100-day challenge of learning how to expand my skills for figure drawing, there was another artist that I followed that did figure drawing, and she got sued because she was using a photograph of a model, and the photographer sued him, and the model sued and said, you can't sell products with my face. So if she was just drawing it and posting it on our Instagram, probably would have been fine. But seeing all that come out really put another damper on that creative endeavor of like, well, how do I do figure drawing without, you know, hurting other artists and without taking away from that? And it, you know, you almost have to put a disclaimer at the bottom, like, I'm not selling this. This is just for fun. I found these pictures on Pinterest. Like, that's all that is. And so that was kind of a sub-passion out of that and relearning who I was. And then coming out the other side of the pandemic was, or during the pandemic, I actually ended up finding out that Second Friday Art Night had a board. And so I just was like, I'm going to sign up for that. I used to go to Second Friday Art Nights all the time, so I'm going to volunteer to be on their board. So that.
And what's Second Friday Art Nights?
Well, yeah, I was kind of in the mid-ramble.
No, but that was a good transition. That really was. Yeah.
So during the pandemic, I signed up for the Second Friday Art Night board. It's where all the galleries and some local shops stay open late in downtown Little Rock, and they have local artists typically, and these galleries stay open. So you have like Historic Arkansas Museum, you have the Old State House, the CALS, the Central Arkansas Library System has their own art gallery. And then you've got some little shops like Sergio, who's a gallery owner, and then you've got Bella Vita, she's a jewelry maker, but then she'll have her own artist in-house specially just for Second Friday Art Night. So I used to go to that all the time in college. Like, I would go every single month, every Friday. I loved going. It was free beer, free food, free art. Yes, I was gonna go. And I took all my friends with me. We would just hop around town and go to all these little art things. And it was, just from 5 to 7, 5 to 8, kind of depending on which spot you went. A lot of them had live music while you were there. So it was just a fun way to learn about downtown. And so when I saw they had a board, I was like, well, I love going to that. And I felt like it kind of fizzled out, and like, pandemic, okay. So I hopped on just to see how, like, when I was a big vendor, I had tried to vend for Second Friday Art Night before they had pop-up artists a couple of times. I had a lot of thoughts and opinions because it did not go well. When I was a vendor, it was like the spots they put us in were not good for foot traffic, and it was hard to get to. And so I did it twice, and I gave feedback every single time, but they kind of ended up fizzling out, and they got rid of doing local artists altogether. So I joined with the idea of, I want local little artists like who I was to have this spot to come into downtown and be a vendor and get their art out there. So what's better than Second Friday Art Night, and where people are already walking around, where these little artists are going to be new, they don't know who to contact, they don't know how to get into these galleries, they don't know the gallery owners. It's so hard to find that starting point in Little Rock of who is the first person to contact to get into that realm. I spent 10 years trying to figure it out. Since I moved to Little Rock in 2011, I probably spent that whole 10 years of, even in college, just like, who do I contact? How do I get into these little art vendy things? And it took me so long to just figure it out. And it was just going to these events over and over and over, and forcing myself to meet people and just talk to them about that. And that's how I kind of got into that two-fan volunteer world.
So you got on the board.
Yep.
And then so it came out of this whole introducing new artists. What is that a different thing from the?
Yeah. So two-fan traditionally is just the art galleries in town, and so that is from 5 to 7. And so when I joined the board, the volunteer board, they were like, so what do you like, why are you doing this? What business are you with? Are you with a gallery or whatever? And I was like, nope, I'm not with any of those things. I'm a local artist, and I want to bring that voice to the Second Friday Art Night committee. And the first year I was on the committee was still a lot of Zoom stuff and online, and we slowly transitioned back to normal. We meet once a month now. And the first year I was on the committee, I pitched this idea of, let me have a spot to put vendors. I'll take 10, I'll take 20, whatever you want to give me. But we had just finished doing the Pocket Park, which I knew about because I had competed to get a mural there.
What's the Pocket Park?
So, I know, we have like questions and questions here. It's very layered. So the Pocket Park is this little, it was like an alleyway between a parking garage and an old building downtown. And the Downtown Little Rock Partnership, I think with the city and Benny Keith, decided that that was a space that they were going to put money into and clean up and really make it a community space. And so they put turf down. There's, all kinds of little tables and stuff, and now they've got overhead lights. It's really cute. And they had a couple of mural competitions of, hey, submit an idea and then we'll let you paint a mural if we like it. And they paid everybody to actually paint the murals. So I was able to get 2 murals in there, and that was part of that was pre-pandemic, I guess. No, right at the end of the pandemic. So I was able to get a mural in there, and I was working on that, and so I kind of knew about the space from all those murals that they had us do, and people were hosting like yoga there. I think I want to say DHS is across the street, and they, people go out there for lunch, and they host yoga, and they host all kinds of stuff, and now they do like movies in the Pocket Park. It's just this really cute, thin little area that they've just expanded to be like for any kind of event. So my suggestion was, can I take that pocket park and do a reoccurring monthly event there with vendors? And so they let me have the first one, and it was awesome. It was amazing. We had 10 vendors. We kept it very small because it's so narrow. We kept all the vendors on the side. I had Emily Fenton playing. She did an amazing job. She was really easy to work with, and she had just her and her guitarist there. We had all the overhead lights, and she had like this really smooth, light music that was perfect to like sit and drink your beer, but then also talk to the artists and sit there. And so it felt like a very intimate event of where you could actually get to know the artists. And so we had a really good turnout. And maybe because, post-pandemic, everybody was really excited to come out. But then the second I had a meeting about it afterwards, and I told everybody in the committee like how well it went. Well, they wanted to piggyback off of it. So they were like, okay, well, let's take that momentum and put it with one of the galleries. And I was not really excited about that. I pushed back a little bit, but ultimately I was the newest in the group. So we were like, well, let's try. Let's see what happens. So we took the vendors the next month to be part of one of the galleries, and we set up outside. Well, things didn't go as well for the vendors. And then and so I wasn't really happy about how it went. The gallery was not, felt bad that it didn't go as good as they had hoped. And then so the next month, I tried to get a different gallery to pick up my vendors, and nobody would. Nobody on the committee wanted to deal with the vendors and where we could put them. So I backed away. I honestly was like, okay, I'm not really getting a lot of support. And I was talking on the side to somebody else in the committee, and he really was like, yes, I think this is a great idea. I just think maybe this isn't the right time. And so we kind of paused on it, and then I was not sure what I was going to do with it because I still wanted to do it. I was starting to think about like other locations and whatever. And then someone from the committee reached back out to me and said, hey, I think you should kind of repitch it. It's been a little bit. And we actually had new people with the Downtown Little Rock Partnership who were working there. So I got reintroduced back in, and we repitched, and these new people from the Downtown Little Rock Partnership were so into the idea that they wanted to back it full force. They were like, we want this to happen. We think it's a great addition to what we already have. So the compromise we kind of got to was normal two-fan with all of the galleries. They're open 5 to 7, and then, or 5 to 8, they're open after hours. And then my event would be 7 to 10, so we would be in after hours, so we'd only overlap that hour, and then we would start our music at 8, so that way we kind of like just keep the party going and let everybody kind of have that full experience of, you can hop from gallery to gallery to gallery and then end up at the vendor market. And so we've finally done 2. They've both been really fun. The very first one was 20 vendors. We had everybody show up. I got everybody settled. It was perfect. And I was like sitting down, eating at the food truck and listening to the music with all the vendors behind me that I've already looked at. And I was just like, this is the event that I've always wanted to have in Little Rock. And so it was so much fun to actually get to sit there and like see what came to fruition of everything that I've ever wanted it to be. And then the rain hit, of course, early, and we had to like scramble, and I learned the other half of being in charge of, of an event.
Unexpected stuff.
Yes, every time.
Okay, so it sounds like it's going really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have one other slated for summer?
Right. August 11th will be our next one. And we've actually upped the vendor limit, so we keep upping it every time. Last month we had, I think we ended up with 25, and we're shooting for 25 to 30 again for August. And we're so far basically rain or shine. Last month was different than the first month. So the first month we were great, and then 9 p.m. hit, and then we just got slammed with rain. So we were all scrambling, and one person had a tent there, so we like threw everybody's art under that. We were like, hi, you're sharing. And they were very cool about it. And then this last event we had pockets of like, is it gonna sprinkle? Is it gonna hard rain? What are we gonna do? And so that was a different endeavor where we would cover up art for the little bit with tarps or whatever as we got a 5-minute rain, and then pull it back out. So our artists are being very resilient, thankfully, and we're letting more people come with tents because it's Arkansas. You have no idea what it's going to do at 10 o'clock at night in the summer.
Oh yeah, or any season.
Truly.
At this point, who knows?
Yeah, right.
Who knows what could happen?
Right.
So if people want to, is it still open for people to apply to have a vendor booth, or what is that process like?
We're not open anymore for August. We're pretty full. I'm collecting. We've sent out enough acceptance and just waiting to hear back from people, and then I've already got people who are willing to last minute fill in if somebody cancels last minute. So we've got a pretty deep pool for that right now. We're gonna do this next summer. We're talking about doing it May, June, and July next summer, because in August, Old State House does a really battle of the bands in August, so they extend their normal 2-fan, so we don't want to compete with the other galleries. So next year we'll have, now that we've done it 3 times, we kind of know what we're doing and looking for, and so we'll be able to push it up a little bit and make it May, June, July, hopefully.
Awesome. And if people want to apply for next year, how do they do that?
I would say email the Downtown Little Rock Partnership, which they've got a website, which I don't know what it is.
I'll link everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll find
Perfect.
it. I'll
Okay.
link it, yeah.
So just email the Downtown Little Rock Partnership, or you can find the Facebook pages. There's a Second Friday Art Night Facebook page, and then they should also have an event for Second Friday Art Night after hours. So that's the vendor event is the 2-fan after hours event.
And if people want to attend, information should be on there for them to just show up as spectators or purchasers.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And it's where the wagon mural is downtown at Capitol and Main. And so far all of my vendors have loved it. They're just like, the location's really cool because we've got the big mural in the background, and we're right at that really big corner, and you've got the band playing, and so just having that music ambiance really echo around town, and then the mural show up. Everyone really likes it, and we're kind of in that walking space between some of the main River Market galleries versus some of our Main Street artists. So we're kind of helping bridge that walking gap for the rest of 2-fan.
And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is, it sounds like there's been a transition of what you've been working on personally for your art. Where are you at now? What are you exploring? What are you working on?
So now, I've got this volunteer stuff that is a nice kind of summer focus, but I've definitely pulled back on my online presence. So I'm being more selective about what vendor events I go to. In the 5 years since the last time I talked to you, I turned 30. So
congratulations.
That definitely
30 is great.
It's been lovely this side of the hill. But that, I think, has made me realize how I want to use my energy. And I don't need to do an all-day 8-hour event where I actually get up at 6 a.m. to prep and then get there at 7, and then the event starts at 9, and then I stay until 5 and then tear down at 6, and it's hit or miss on if I'm gonna make $50 or $300, and is that worth my energy? At this point, not really. I do still have the full-time job, so I'm grateful that I'm able to be more selective about my freelance and these vendor events. And with that, I'm not posting as much on Instagram about my personal art because I'm relearning how to love art. I feel like I had to take that step back because it was everything needed to be. How many likes did I get? Or who's sharing it? Or I saw my friend share somebody else's art, but they didn't share my art. And it was becoming a shitty comparison game that nobody wants. And I love all of my friends' art, and I'm like, they should be shared because they're amazing. So it was never I feel in competition with them. It was just I'm being left behind feeling. And with that, I think I'm putting too much pressure on myself. And I think goes back to the pandemic I took that 2 years to really relearn who I was. And part of that was, what did I like about being an artist as a kid? And that was sitting in my room, listening to music and figure drawing. And now in a similar vein, I've started playing Dungeons and Dragons with my all-girls friend group, and we play every week, and every week I take a stupid scene that we did and I draw it, and that's kind of my go-to. You won't see that on my Instagram. I don't share that anywhere. I share it with my friends and with people, you know, who are genuinely interested in it, but you know, that's kind of my new passion, is trying to learn how to have that consistent drawing, but for myself, which does lead into my eventual, like, my long-term project goal is, like, one day I'd love to draw a comic, but, you know, that's a stretch goal.
That was all the questions I had. Was there anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, I guess you can, if you want to follow, I'm going to start posting probably more of my normal life and mixed in with my art. My Instagram is at @whatthekaty, which is my new branding, to really kind of focus on general creativeness. So, and it's Katy with a Y. I'm Katy Raines, and this has been Sustaining Craft. If you'd like to apply to be a vendor at our next 2FAN After Hours, you can email the Downtown Little Rock Partnership, or you can email me at whatthekaty@gmail.com, and I'll send you the vendor form. And we're looking for artists and crafters of any kind, so if you make prints, or you hand make your own t-shirts, anything that you are hand making and not just finding and reselling, that's the kind of stuff we'd love to have.